So it definitely was around at the time of our Lord as well.
All right, welcome to Church and State, everybody. Today we have a unique episode for you, a bit of a shift in gears, if you will. As you all know, we've been defending the faith here on Church and State, as well as our Substack, Cox News. But it's also important, I think, to highlight those persons who are actually out there rebuilding Catholic culture in a sense. And today, my guest, Trevor Alcorn of Tridentine Brewing, based in Wisconsin, where else, of course, a micro-brewing Catholic company who's making some great stuff over there with his dad, Jeff, and brother Cameron. So I wanted to welcome Trevor to the show today. Thanks for being here, Trevor.
Stephen, it's great to be with you, and thanks for having me on. Great to talk again.
Yeah. Trevor and I met several years ago at a canceled priest event in Wisconsin, of all places, not too far from the home base. And you handed me, I remember, you like a 4-pack or a 6-pack, and I was like, oh my gosh, and this is great. Like, where'd this Catholic company come from? And it seems you've been having a massive amount of success since then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a journey, that's for sure. Slow and steady, and we could talk about that. But yeah, you're right there at the beginning, so you can say you had
Yeah.
some of the OG homebrew.
Well, I know you've expanded into so many different types of beers now, and again, yeah, we will talk about that. But do you see yourself, first question, as like rebuilding Catholic culture? I know on your website you say we are brewing beer for the greater glory of God. Because there's a lot of like brewers out there, obviously, who, they just want to like you have a good time. Alcohol is very much abused in this day and age. But I mean, to me, it seems like, this is a sort of microcosm of Christendom that really is a worthwhile thing to revive. Do you see yourself doing that at all, or what's your overall impetus for trying this?
Yeah, and really, I think in a small way, you're absolutely right, Stephen, that yeah, I mean, I don't see myself as like, Trevor is rebuilding Christendom, but like
Yeah.
just in a small way, kind of as you mentioned, our saying, brewing beer for the greater glory of God, doing what we can for God, and really in a certain sense, reclaiming the craft of home brewing,
Mhm.
which is very not just home brewing, but brewing beer, which is very Catholic.
Mhm.
And so that's just something that really spoke to us and kind of something that we loved. And so we thought, hey, let's infuse our faith into this, and let's bring greater glory to God, and let's put forward an avenue maybe to talk about the faith in an organic way with just family and friends, or now that we're
Mhm.
doing this commercially with others, and just getting the faith out there and just in the marketplace.
Mhm. How's the response been these last 5 years? I mean, I know I've seen you on a bunch of podcasts and everything, and it seems you're growing. Is it mostly Catholics who are taking an interest in this? How's the Catholic world sort of responded to your company, which I believe, again, is a great addition to what we're all trying to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very positive, I would say, especially on the Catholic side of things, or even conservative, because we have some more patriotic, American patriotic themed beers.
Mm,
But certainly, it's been very well received by most Catholics, and even the general public as well. I would
mm,
say. So I think very few people are like, question I get often is, well, how is it out in the marketplace? Are people off put by it that aren't Catholic? Like, what's going
mhm,
on with that? And I would say no. It's not really
hmm,
been off-putting in general to people. Yeah, there are some people who are like really like anti-Catholic. I will say
yeah,
that. So in some small corners we'll get pushback for sure, but that's all right, because when we put this together, we're kind of knew like it's going to be polarizing in some sense, one way or the other. Like, a lot of
mhm,
people are going to love it. I mean, there's definitely be some people that are going to hate it, and there are there are some haters out there, but
yeah.
that's okay. It just comes with the territory.
How'd you come up with the names? The Cristeros, it's amazing. It's a great name here, and recalling them. You also have Habsburg Vienna Lager, obviously a big part of Catholic history in Europe. Where did you guys come up with the names here?
Yeah, so the names have just been really organic,
Mm,
and how we came up with them. So sometimes we want to start with a beer. We come up with like a beer style and say, okay,
mm,
well, we want to do a a brown ale, for example. And so we thought, okay, what goes with the brown ale? Oh, well, maybe Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And so we, would put it together like that. Or,
Yeah,
for example, with the Habsburg that you were showing,
yeah,
uh, which is in honor of Blessed Emperor Karl of Austria. His capital city was Vienna, and there's a style for Vienna lagers. We thought, okay, great, let's make a Vienna lager, and then we'll do a beer in his honor. So it
mhm,
really just depends on where we're at, like what saint or what theme we want to go with, and
yeah,
then maybe what style. But it all eventually kind of like blends together and melds together when we come up with
yeah.
the style.
I mean, it's not like picking a name for a child, right? You're not doing novenas, going to Our Lady's grotto, right? It's just like kind of,
Well, yeah, you know what? That is a good point, though. I mean, it
yeah,
is something that we definitely like, prey on because
yeah,
we'll have. I mean, even right now we have, we're always thinking of what's the next thing, and
mhm,
so right now we've got 5 beers out commercially, and
yeah,
we're thinking about what's next, and so it's just something that it is good to pray on. And just to ask for some intercession to see if we get good direction on what's the next thing to introduce and really who to honor with it.
yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating because you're over there in Wisconsin, which is one of the biggest, like, from every, like, graphic I've seen, it's, like, the place for beer consumption, right? And you guys
Yes.
are even beating us over here in Michigan, and, I live in a city that's called Beer City, USA, because of the, like, proliferation of home brews that are here. It just seems like Midwest people, like, love this sort of stuff. I don't know why. Why is that? Like, what's going on here? Why is everybody in the Midwest like beer? It's kind of a funny little thing, but I know
I,
Yingling is coming here in Michigan soon, so
yeah, it's great. Yeah, you know, it was great to see Yangling come our way too, because Illinois, we had to go to Indiana actually to get Yangling up until this last year.
okay.
Um, but yeah, just for the Midwest, I think it's really due to the immigrants that came here,
Mm,
or people that settled in this region. So really, what we're talking about is like a lot of German Catholics
yeah,
that came this way, a lot of Catholics in general, and so obviously there's a pretty stark difference than, let's just say, the South, for example, or other regions of the country where there's not the exact like makeup of Catholics or maybe Germans or Northern Europeans there. So uh, anyway, I think that's what's going on with the Midwest, and certainly with
mhm,
with Wisconsin. It's got a pretty
yeah.
rich history there of brewing.
I never thought of that actually. I think you're really on point though, because over here in West Michigan, there's, well, it's an interesting makeup. We have Polish Catholics and, Poles Catholics, we like to drink, and then there's also a bunch of Dutch citizens who live in the neighboring
Mm.
county, and it's a dry county actually on Sundays, or at least historically it has been, and so it's curious. But I guess I'm wondering now because your dad's father-in-law, Ken Solecki was his name. He was the one who taught your dad, Jeff, how to do this. And was he interested? Was he German and Catholic? And I mean, it seems that that's where this sort of originates to kind of confirm, what you're talking about with the Upper Midwest here.
Yeah, so well, he close. He was
Mm.
Polish.
Okay, all
So
right, there we
yeah,
go.
so yeah, uh, and then from Chicago, obviously, there's like very significant
Yeah.
Polish population around Chicago, and so yeah, he was big into the home brewing, as was my grandmother, and then going all the way back to my great grandmother, who came from Poland, and
Hmm.
she brewed beer in the bathtub in Chicago during Prohibition. So
Right.
that
You're
there may
not
be
doing this in your bathtub, are you? You guys got a little
no,
bit of.
nothing like that. We have brewed beer, home brewed beer in our basements, but
Mhm.
not the bathtub. That is not something I would do. But I guess you got to
Yeah,
do what must be done in
yeah.
dire times.
Well, you guys seem to be growing quite a bit. You're now being distributed by Carbon for Brewing in Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, talk me through the last couple of years. What has been the biggest challenge for you in getting this off the ground? Obviously, you're a family man, and
Yeah.
I imagine this takes a toll on your kind of private life. I mean, is this your full time job? I mean, let's talk about the personal first, and then maybe we can talk about the professional difficulties and all this.
Yeah. So this is something that my father and I really started out as a hobby, in
Hmm.
2013, just home brewing. Of course, it grew into something, with the name. We named it in 2019. It was still a homebrew and homebrewing operation until 2023 when we decided let's just try and make this commercial. So October last year was when it went live, and for me, it's always been me personally. It's still been like a hobby side thing. So I still have a
Mhm.
full time job outside of the brewery. But my father, he was actually retired
Okay.
when he decided from his full time job, and so this has kind of become his full time job.
Ah,
And coming up with the recipes, refining them. Actually, we do all the distribution. So Carbon 4 is our contract manufacturer. So
okay.
when we wanted to get going, we thought, let's get this off the ground without having to put a significant investment, especially in a time when craft brew isn't doing so well, into like building our own brewery. Let's see how
Yeah.
this goes. And so, great outfit up there. They also have some of their own Catholic beers, but in any case, I'm getting off point. So he does a lot of that self distribution sales. I handle a lot of the marketing, and it's it's definitely a balancing act, even for him, because you know my father, he retired because he wanted to spend more time with my mother and my two adopted brothers, and so he still spends a significant amount of time with them. Even for him, this is not something he does like full time.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, there is a juggling there that has to be done. Otherwise, yeah, you definitely could burn yourself out, and maybe you're not prioritizing the right things in your state in
Mhm.
life on what really you need to focus on. So yeah, it's definitely a
It's needed
challenge.
though. Yeah, I can understand all that. I mean, but I do think men, I mean, should be having good hobbies, you know. I mean, in an age where there's just so much addiction to video games or all sorts of, bad hobbies that you can call them that, I think, um,
Yes.
take us over. I mean, I think it's a good thing to kind of have something like this. What's your favorite drink, by the way? I mean, I just put it on the screen here. I'll put it back up for those who are watching. There's at least a couple different ones here. Do you have a favorite?
Oh, well, you know what? I'm actually have some Bonifest right here.
Oh,
So
okay, good.
a Bonifest being our Meritzen style. It's basically our Oktoberfest style
Cool.
of beer that we came out in honor of Saint Boniface.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, my favorite actually is our Dies Irae Imperial Stout. Dies Irae is Latin for Day of Wrath,
Mhm.
and so really reminding us of our own end, but the final judgment, and keeping the four last things in mind. So I mean, I really love the theme there.
Yeah.
Um, keeping that in mind always. But I'm a big stout guy, so
Okay.
I absolutely love that. So that is my own personal favorite in the lineup.
Are you gonna get into I mean, the trend now is to make all these seltzers, right? And I think that actually has had a big impact on this industry, like, in
Mhm.
general,
Yeah.
because you're seeing everybody just try to do that. I mean, you've even had Budweiser get into this an area. I mean, what do you make of that explosion, and then are you guys even gonna dare to get into that at all?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe at some point we will. I mean, we're not opposed to it. We've made seltzer at home, like, so it's
What's the difference?
actually.
How do you make seltzer versus I mean, obviously, there's a huge difference, but, I mean, can you give us some light on how you make seltzer versus, like, beer?
Yeah,
In 30
basically
seconds, Trevor, by the way.
in 30 seconds,
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
beer beer is a beer's not complex, but
Mhm.
compared to seltzer is extraordinarily easy. You're basically just boiling sugar water, and
Ah,
then you're fermenting the sugar water, and that's how you get the carbonation, the alcohol. I mean, it's really that simple. It's incredibly easy to make your own seltzer, and that's what the funny thing is when you see it on the store shelves, and it's as much or more than beer. And I know what
yeah.
it takes to make beer, and beer is way more complex. It's way more expensive for the ingredients, way more time intensive. So they're really making a killing out there. A lot of these companies with the seltzers on just the cost that it goes into making it and what they're seeing as a return. So,
I think
I
they're
mean, at some
marketing
point we
it.
might.
Yeah, their marketing is the strategy, right? They're trying to make it like, "This is the healthier drink. It's not as many carbs, it's low sugar." I know long drink is one that I've had, several times. It's, 0 calories, 0 sugar is what they say it is.
Yes.
And, I think that it appeals to older people who maybe wanna watch their weight, and then younger people who just maybe don't want a big of a hangover as a couple of beers. I think that's kind of where they're making their inroads.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it plays right into where we're at right now as kind of not a society, but in general, like especially like Gen Z, they're not big drinkers even. That's why I think that you see a lot of NA brews that come out. I mean, certainly has to do with people that are more health conscious. Maybe they don't want to have alcohol, so that's just another method for them. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just this overall trend of like, not as much calories and then on the lighter side of things. Although I have seen seltzers that have been like imperial or like over 8%. So it can
Yeah,
really, there's a whole gamut there for
yeah,
seltzers. But yeah, I think it kind of plays into a broader trend,
yeah.
which is why I think craft brewing especially is down. Like alcohol sales in general are down, but
Mm.
the craft industry has been really down the last few
Hmm.
years.
So I want to talk about like the history of beer because obviously we know, I think most people understand like monks during the Middle Ages, like, they brewed beer. And there's stories of like monks, at least I've heard from priests, that like during Lent, because at least back then, like alcohol, beer especially, had a lot more fillingness to it. It was actually like more nutritional. Even you can correct me if I'm wrong. And they would fast during Lent, but they would have beer for like their meal, and they actually wouldn't get like as drunk as people do today because it was lower alcoholic content, and it was very like it was like you're eating a loaf of bread or something, right? And I
Yeah.
think people understand like the Belgian monks and the ales. That's sort of like Catholic history, but we were talking before the show that like beer especially is like mentioned in the Old Testament, and the Egyptians had a beer like drink. Can you like update our viewers on that history, which is just so fascinating to me? I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So beer goes way back. I think that there's it's thought that beer goes back, 5,000 years at least, maybe 8,000 years that it's recorded, even going back as far to China. But as you mentioned, I mean, the Egyptians definitely had beer. It's not usually what we think of today as beer. So I think everyone has a specific thing in mind, but this is more of a
Bud Light.
milkshake. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what they think, the like really,
Miller
really
Lite,
light stuff.
Pilsner,
But
yeah.
but
Mhm.
this is like really heavy stuff. So they used to drink their what they would say is beer in with a straw, like
Oh,
out of like these not troughs, but the just open vats, open containers where all the fermentables would be. And so I don't know if it'd be that appealing if you saw it today.
yeah.
But
Would
that's
you ever
kind of
try to remake that? I mean, is there
oof,
an ingredients ever? I mean, that seems pretty kind of rare. I mean, was that a
yeah.
common drink for the people, or was that something like reserved like just for Pharaoh, or what was the context of that in their culture? Do you know?
Yeah, you know what? Beer in the ancient world was definitely the common man's drink for
Okay.
sure. Like it was definitely if you were having wine, it was a little bit more upper class to have the wine. So beer was, even in the Roman Empire, it was kind of like looked down upon as kind of the
Yeah.
the lowly plebes drank beer.
Yeah.
So
This is
yeah,
why our Lord, I mean, on a serious point, this is why our Lord would not have, chosen. I mean, beer would have been around, I presume, in first century Judea, which is why he used wine instead of just the commoner alcoholic drink.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it was around in Judea at that time. Um, and as we had been talking about previously, there's pretty good evidence as well that beer is mentioned in the Old Testament as being at the temple in Jerusalem specifically as an offering, and that it's mentioned as a strong drink. So there's specific mention of wine in the Old Testament, but then it also mentions strong drink. Well, there wasn't anything else like whiskey or anything like stronger alcohol back then, and so it's really beer. It's
Huh.
is what it's thought to be. So
Wow.
yeah, so it definitely was around at the time of our Lord as well.
That's just fascinating. I'd never heard that before. Let's fast forward then to the Middle Ages. I mean, because this is really when like the church kind of takes over, or at least in my view, is most associated with brewing. I mean, the monks brewed that. What are some of the biggest orders that were doing that? I want to say the Cistercians, and some others had their own. I know the Chartreuse monks still do this today with their spirit. I forget what it's like a liqueur, right, in France.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely a bunch of different orders have taken up the mantle with beer. So, for example, I mean, Benedictines have definitely done it. Franciscans. So, what you had mentioned earlier, Stephen, about the beer being really fortified and bready and something that the monks would have. Sometimes it's even said just beer for Lent, the entirety of Lent.
Yeah.
That's actually the Franciscans
Oh,
who
okay.
made Doppelbock, that particular beer style. So yeah, there's a bunch of different orders who took it up. But it really goes back. The first recorded history of monks brewing beer is, I believe, the 7th or 8th century. There's records of monasteries brewing beer, and it became just so, very prevalent in Europe. I mean, all the way up to the Napoleonic era and the French Revolution. So there was I believe, over 2,000 monasteries in Europe that had a brewery up until Napoleon, and so or the French Revolution. After that, it was just totally, obviously, monastic life was decimated, but consequently, beer was as well, as made by the monks. And so from there, I think that after Napoleon, there was maybe 30 or 50, 30 to 50 monasteries that started brewing again
Mhm.
after they rebuilt from like 2000. So it was
Wow.
a pretty big, monastic hit, but
Yeah.
also from a beer standpoint.
Is there a patron saint then of beer? Is there like one monk in like the 1100s that like everybody like says like this is who you pray to? Or I mean, is that part of all of this, or is there not really a?
There is actually, there's multiple patron saints of beer.
Uh-huh.
So Saint Arnold of Metz is one, as well as Saint Wenceslas.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so he's also patron saint of beer. I believe that there's more than that, though. Yeah, there you go.
On your website.
So, yep.
King, well, tell us about him. Was he a King Wenceslas of Poland, I presume? This is his stay,
Yeah,
or what about him?
from Bohemia, so
Okay.
Czech.
Okay.
um well, what's now Czech Republic. But yes, he actually wasn't a king. I think he may have been posthumously made a king by one of the Holy Roman emperors, but he was actually a prince who was killed or martyred in, I believe, the 10th century. So I wish I could recount the whole story of his
Yeah.
of everything, but he was a very, very holy prince, and
That's
so
awesome.
yeah.
You've honored him with that. That's really, really neat. I imagine when we all get to heaven, hopefully someday, we can have these conversations about, hey, I made a beer in your honor. You know?
Exactly. Maybe I'll be special friends with him. All these
Yeah.
saints that I made a beer in honor of. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so fascinating. I think because again today, I mean, so let's keep fast forwarding then, because now we have, as you mentioned, the orders of the monks have just been decimated, especially in the last century. Um, do monks still do this at all? I know, like I mentioned, the chartreuse drink is still made, and I think the secret's like very, very secret. I think there's only the ingredients are very secret, like two, I think, in the world who know it. But it seems a lot of it's been commercialized to the point where like there's no religious who are making this stuff anymore.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's definitely the case with a lot of this. You see it in Germany. I mean, now you see it a lot in Belgium as well, where a lot of the surviving breweries from the Napoleonic era, they're losing, or they've lost a lot of monks. They don't have any vocations, so
Mhm.
they've handed it off to a commercial group who's kind of taken it over, and it might have a monk on the label, and they may be running with the same recipe, but in many cases, it's not the monks. Probably in most cases of even like Belgian beers,
Yeah.
but there are some that still do it for sure. So, for
Mhm.
example, the Benedictines in Norcia, they brew beer for sure, and you can get their beer even in the U.S. They sell the beer. They export the beer to the U.S., so you can get it here. There's even in the U.S. there's some orders that are brewing beer still. So there's a brewery out in, I believe, Oregon, And I
Okay.
forgot which order is doing it, but you actually have to go to the monastery, and they have a tap room in Oregon, and you can go and you can have the beer there. So definitely go there. Or I would say your best bet if you want to get some really good beer is to order from the monks of Norcia.
Mhm.
Their beer is top notch.
Yeah, so we have a video of those monks. There's the brewery right there. So
Yep.
that's pretty interesting. I know that's over in Italy, obviously, if people are unfamiliar. But this is fascinating because I know there was once upon a time, at least several probably times in European history where, obviously after the Reformation, there was a lot of growth of Puritanism, and alcohol seemed to be like one of the first targets of some of these rulers. I mean, give us a rundown as to how alcohol or beer specifically survived some of these and what happened to it under them.
Yeah, so I definitely it's a characteristic of like a puritanical streak. I mean, especially of the English. I mean, there might be more like you had mentioned the Dutch. So I don't know if it's exported back to the continent, that
Mhm.
line of thinking. But certainly I believe with like, for example, with Cromwell, when we're talking about kind of the English Revolution, so to speak, and like puritanical nature of things, certainly our own Puritans that came over to the United States. They're not partakers of alcohol, and kind of that similar strain of Protestantism. I think even though it didn't necessarily keep alcohol out of the British colonies, I think that kind of like that ghost lived with us and was kind of resurrected in a certain way. What we saw in the United States just through the temperance movement in the 19th century and ultimately in prohibition, uh, that kind of just general spirit is very very Protestant spirit, and
Mhm.
certainly one can understand why there was a push for it in a certain sense. Certainly alcohol can be abused. I don't doubt that. It's something we have to have our own temperance as a virtue,
Mhm.
not just banning
Right.
something. Um, but yeah, that really led to that kind of that particular strain of Protestantism. Not all Protestants are like that, of course. Like Lutherans love their beer. I think
Yeah.
always have, but certainly um, Methodists, others, kind of are not big fans of the drink.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least again in the past, the Catholic way to enjoy alcohol primarily was at family gatherings or for, especially even after Sunday Mass. I've been to Ireland, and usually after going to morning mass, you would go to the pub and hang out and have a family good wholesome time, and have share a drink at meal, not go out to the bar at 10 o'clock and stay out till 2 to get just
Yes,
wasted. Right? That's a clear modern way this has been abused.
exactly. It's yeah, and I love exactly what you said about it being more communal in nature, or what it should be, right? And enjoying it with family and friends, or with a meal, and it being social, and
Mhm,
helping to kind of enable those type of social interactions with people. And
mhm.
so that's really its proper place. And so yeah, rather than just slamming back a 12 pack of beer, 6 pack of beer, or
Yeah.
going out and consuming way too much. Yeah, if it's in its proper place, and the virtue of temperance is exercise, and it can actually be a very wholesome and healthy thing.
So, can we expect Dylan Mulvaney to appear in any of your ads coming up soon, or you
You'll know that the business is finished when that happens.
Yeah, if indeed.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny when that came out,
Yeah.
because I mean that's kind of, again, kind of like exactly the opposite of what we're about, right? At Tridentine. And so uh yeah, it certainly there's not an appetite for that. uh thank goodness. I think Budweiser found out the hard way about that. And
Yeah.
so Yeah, definitely happy to do the opposite.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but I want to ask about that though, maybe on a more serious point. What are some beer companies that maybe are doing things well? I mean, obviously you guys are doing a great thing. I think Catholics really should be buying your stuff because the world, everybody can just buy all this sort of stuff, but we don't know, where's our money going? Again, it's funding DEI, it's supporting all this evil and wrong stuff. But there has to be at least some, because you're a craftsman, right? You understand what it takes to be a good brewmaster. Are there places that you look to and say, that's a good company, or that's like a nice beer? What do you go to other than Tridentine to maybe have a nice drink when it comes to your beverage choice?
Yeah, so um sometimes it could be hard, if especially if you're like looking for a brewery or a beer that kind of suits your values, because a lot
Mm,
of it, especially if anyone's been down the beer aisle lately, a lot of it is not just like something with like Dylan Mulvaney theme, but just demonic. I mean, you can kind of see it like on a lot of the cans. It like is actually demonic, half the stuff. Uh, so I would say the best bet is to find something that's local. Obviously, we
mm,
can't find Tridentine beer,
yeah.
but that typically is your best bet, because there actually is still a decent amount of craft breweries. I think when people think of craft breweries, they're thinking of like hipsters and extraordinarily liberal, and there's definitely
IPA.
that.
Yeah,
IPAs
yeah.
and um, there can be a strain of that, that's for sure. But there is actually a decent amount that are, you know, conservative, that are, Christian, even some, or Catholic. So even the beer company that we're working with, they have very conservative leaning beers, or beers for the armed forces. They have Catholic themed beers. They have a Terra Demons beer that
Oh,
they
interesting.
have,
Okay.
and they have a Priest Prophet King beer
And this
as
is this
well.
here, Trevor? Carbon 4.
Carbon 4. Yep.
Okay. And what is it? How do you work with them? What is this company here?
Yeah, so we work with Carbon 4. They brew their own beer, but they also do some contract manufacturing. So other breweries can come to them and say, "Hey, can you help? For extra capacity, can you brew a beer for us?" And
Mhm.
so they'll brew it and can it for you. And so that's what we've been doing with them. We've been partnering with them to scale up our homebrew batches
Mhm.
into a commercial batch, and then that they actually will brew it for us and package it. So
Okay.
um but yeah, they've got their own line of, specifically Catholic beers, and so there's always a surprise out there if you look for it. So that's what I would say, like, no matter what, look local and you'd be surprised, I think, at what you're able to find.
Yeah, it seems the industry is so just like every industry, there's big beer. I mean,
Mhm.
Anheuser-Busch was bought several years ago by InBev, right? And now they're just a
Yes.
massive international conglomeration. And I think a lot of their faithful customers really saw that as a betrayal because InBev, it's not, it's a foreign entity. It's a massive multinational, whereas Anheuser was always like, we are the everyday guys drink. And it was always rooted to, I think, Bavaria, that family is in. But now it's just a global marketplace where everything's just sort of commercialized and then it just becomes bland. Right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that, and certainly a lot of the brands that you see, like big name brands. Like, let me give you an example. So up in Wisconsin, there's a family brewery that's been around for 150 years called Line and Kugel,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were bought out by Miller, but Miller is owned by, I don't know if Miller's also owned by InBev. It's also owned by another
Probably
big.
yeah, some subsidiary. He's got
Yeah, it's
some
it's
connection.
another enormous subsidiary, and
Yeah.
like they shut down the family brewery, and just took all the beers, and now they're making it out of Milwaukee at their large facility. And so you do run into that with these bigger breweries, where it's just like kind of just take the name and then run with it. And it's not to say that they can't or don't make in many cases some good beers, but
Mhm.
definitely it's not what you get out of
Right.
a smaller craft operation.
And that's the same for, is it New Glarus? Is that how you pronounce it in Wisconsin? New
Oh,
Glarus?
New Glarus? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a family owned still, or is that kind of
I think
gone
it's
bigger?
I think it's employee owned, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
that
Well,
one might be just employee owned, and it's just in Wisconsin. I mean, that's their call
yeah.
to name to fame is like, you have to be in Wisconsin. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. What we're doing.
Yeah.
We wanna expand out of Wisconsin, into additional states, of course, but
Yeah.
that's for New Glarus, you have to be in Wisconsin to get, like, their Spotted Cow, farmhouse ale is their main beer, and,
Whenever I go, I do, that is the one I do get.
they
Well,
do a good
that's the
job.
thing. Well, yeah, that's the thing with the Yingling though too, because I'm in Michigan, and whenever I would go to the East Coast, like, or India, it was in Ohio, I think, where they sold it. So I had a friend who lives downstate, and every time he went home, I was like, "Hey, could you bring me back like it's just
Mhm.
24 pack of Yingling?" Because I was like, I really like it, and it has such roots on the East Coast, but now they're finally coming into Michigan, and I think that's like another one of those companies that they are based in Pottsville, they're family owned, and they never have sold out to the big companies, which I've always sort of like said, okay, this is a nice tasting beer, and they're not part of the big corporation. I'm going to patronize them. So
Right.
like I view that as like sort of like part of a obligation to be like, hey, like especially with you guys now, because it's like, okay, you're trying to expand, uh stuff tastes good, and I'm helping a good Catholic family in the meantime provide for their needs.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, I think that's a good way to think about it, and just almost like, you know, Catholic alternate economy sense, and just going out and trying to, like, specifically support Catholic businesses, where we can. I mean, it's something I try to think of, like, where an alternative exists, right? I mean, there's plenty of things where an alternative maybe doesn't exist, and you
Mhm.
just have to go with whatever there is. But certainly where we can, good to always support smaller Catholic businesses. And yeah, otherwise we don't, then it just goes away and we're just left with whatever else is out there.
Yeah. So I have up on the screen here for those who are watching a video of Trevor and his dad brewing a couple of batches. Is this what every day looks like for you when you're doing this, or have you now expanded? Because I know you're trying to grow, and tell us a bit more about your expansion plans. But is this what a daily looks like in the day in life of Tridentine Brewing, and what do you want to do in the future?
Yeah. So what you're showing on screen is kind of a day in the life of uh, homebrew.
Uh-huh.
So in
This is your
our
dad's
what we
house, your
call
dad's garage, or something, or where is this?
Yeah, this is my dad. This is the basement, actually. It's a very nice,
Okay.
nice setup that we got in his basement. And yeah, so this is what we call now our R&D brewery. So if we want to brew a batch and, like, test things out, try out new recipes, kind of what you saw there in the video, that's what that looks like. Kind of a really
Uh,
short clip of, like, a day in the life of home brewing. But yeah, no, now that we're doing the commercial batches, there's a whole, Carbon 4 has their whole facility. So it doesn't look quite like that.
mhm,
It's a lot
mhm,
more impressive, actually.
mhm.
But what the
So you're
operation
really
looks like
just
that's all.
outsourcing the beer then to them. They make it for you, you give them the recipe, et cetera, and they're sort of taking it from there? Is that kinda how that works?
Um, to an extent. So
Okay.
yeah, it's our recipe. We work with them like hand in glove. So it's not like it's their beer. I mean, it's
Yeah, right,
still our beer. When they produce it, they turn it over to us. So really, we outsource the manufacturing of the beer. So,
right.
but then we're also distributing it. So we're self distributing it in Wisconsin. So it's not handed
What
off
does
to
that
them
look
or a
like?
distributor.
Are you driving,
Uh,
like, around trucks on your own on the weekend, or your
that's well,
kids involved
that's what my
too?
dad's doing. My dad is
Okay.
our sales and distribution
Wow.
representative, and so he's all over Wisconsin routinely. Every single week, he's up there, and it's been interesting. It's been a real learning experience. Certainly for me, I'm mostly on the outside. I've come up on some trips to experience a day in the life of the beer sales rep and what that looks like. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, starting from scratch is it just takes some time because you don't have any contacts. You're going in cold to places. You're bringing the beer, trying it out, getting in. We've been able to like successfully get into like most places that we've went to and asked to get into, and had repeat sales, and so things are like they are steadily growing. It's just putting the time in, getting out
Yeah.
there, and one person doing it part time for an entire state is it's a lot because a lot of the distribution companies, I mean, they have a whole obviously a large staff full time and usually a very small part of a state or
Mhm.
a city. And so yeah, that part is something that we're growing. I think very soon we should hopefully even maybe have some full-time staff that'll join as we
Would you
expand.
want to expand or do this full time then? Is this something you would potentially do with your daily life?
Yeah, I mean, I would, if it gets to a point where it's something that could support me and my family, obviously, and everyone else and the needs of the business, and
Mhm.
have capital for that, then yeah, I mean, it'd definitely be something that I would consider. In the meantime, it's still a fun thing to kind of do. I spend a significant amount of free time on it, but yeah, if that could be a full-time thing, I'd love it.
Where are you expanding the most then? I'm looking at your website here, and it looks like a lot of your drinks are at various tap houses or food stores or beer stores. Yeah, I mean, what's like the area you're getting the biggest sales at? I see Beloit, Appleton, Brookfield are Wisconsin watchers will obviously know where those places are.
Yeah, so we're in we're kind of all over the state, but for the
Mhm.
most part, we're in the eastern part of the state. So either the
And
southeast or
Illinois
the
too, it
northeast.
says. Sorry.
Yeah, we have the Illinois button on there because we're always right about to get our Illinois license. So I actually live in Illinois.
Okay.
So the frustrating thing is we've been selling in Wisconsin, but we can't sell in Illinois, even though we live here.
What's
Hopefully
the
that should
issue?
be
Is it
changing.
is it Pritzker that's causing problems? Does he know you're
Uh,
Catholic, or what's going on there?
yeah, you know what? Unsurprisingly, the state of Illinois makes things about 10 times more difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
and so, you know, this is just in general, I should say, for anything alcohol. It's very, very difficult to like get anything off the ground alcohol related. This isn't, I see a lot of like Catholic coffee, for example, and there's a lot of them, but there's a reason why there's like only like one like Catholic brewery out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously besides from some of the monks and whatnot, but and the reason's pretty simple because like the bar with the red tape is like way up here compared to anything else that you're selling, and so that's every state is completely different. Michigan is actually very protectionist, and it's very difficult to get into Michigan
Well,
from a
how about
licensing
I just open up a
standpoint.
branch here, and then, I can be your, you can be a subsidiary owner of me or something,
Well, yeah, right. Well, hey, if you brew the beer, that's the thing. In Michigan, they
Mhm.
they have high favorability for beers brewed in Michigan,
Hey, Michigan
and
first, that's
so
all we're doing, Michigan
th-
first.
that's right, Michigan first. I understandable, but so different states have different rules, and some make it extraordinarily difficult. Wisconsin,
Mhm.
unsurprisingly, with as you mentioned previously,
Mhm.
with how much they love their beer, the bar is relatively low
Mhm.
to be able to distribute the beer. But when it comes to Illinois, there's a lot of additional hoops we've had to jump through, and so hopefully say a prayer, and we'll be in Illinois maybe in
Yeah.
January is what we're thinking is realistic to have the license finally approved and be able to start distributing here.
Yeah, great. We'll pray to, let's see, who Father Jacques, Father Marquette, he was a missionary in these lands, and I don't know if he drank alcohol on his journeys, but he was a great missionary, so maybe we'll
He
bring you
was.
into the Illinois state, but, Trevor, it's been a pleasure having you on and getting to talk about this fascinating subject, which is not just like, okay, I'm brewing beer. There's a lot to this stuff, and it's really unique. And I'm glad you are doing it. I hope people will go to the site. And can they actually, like, if someone who lives like out of state, Wisconsin, or it lives like in Ohio or California or something, Texas, can they actually buy your beer over the internet? And how does that even work? They can ship alcohol through the postal service. Is that how this works?
Yeah. So actually don't ship alcohol with the postal service because it's a felony.
Okay, I was gonna ask. I was gonna say I didn't
you
think it
you
was
can
legal.
with like UPS. But
Okay.
yeah, anyway, it's a federal crime. So
Yeah.
anyway, but for the shipping of beer, that's a little bit difficult. So it's handled on a state by state basis. Speaking of a lot of these antiquated laws that are on the books that are like hangovers from prohibition, uh, most states, for example, 49 and 50 allow wine shipments. So you could probably get in your state wine shipped directly to your house. Only 10 states, I believe, allow direct beer shipments. Now you might be thinking, that doesn't make any sense. You're right. It doesn't make any sense. The wine lobby was very good at getting the laws changed in the 90s and 2000s. The beer lobby really wasn't on it. So here we are. And so for us, we've thought about it. Um, we may open it up. So, for example, a state like Ohio and Kentucky, they're both, the bar is pretty low to be able to ship into those states. So those might be easy wins. But then other states like Pennsylvania, for example, allows it, but you can only ship a 12 pack of beer per year to a household. Um,
Huh.
like that's the law. So like some of them are really crazy. So we're holding off on that right now, the shipping, to be determined in the future. We'll see how the laws change maybe.
Uh,
But in the meantime, if someone wants to, you can always make a beer pilgrimage to Wisconsin.
mhm.
And so that's what I would recommend. Yeah, definitely use our website. We do have like outposts, so to speak, stores right on the border, either right on the Illinois border, right on the Minnesota border as well. And so if you're near any of those states and you can drive through, and believe me, we've had a lot of people that will do these beer pilgrimages,
Mhm.
and they will drive in and they'll wipe out a whole store of beer and then they'll drive back wherever they're going. So yeah, unfortunately, I think that that's everyone's best option right now as it stands, is to make the drive to Wisconsin and
Yeah.
hopefully Illinois in the future.
Yeah, TridentineBrewing.com. Well, I mean, there is Our Lady of Champion. That's an apparition that is approved by the church. That was, I think, in the
Yes,
1800s. It's north of Green Bay, if I'm not incorrect, where Champion's located. So yeah, make a run there and stop into any of these stores. Go to Trevor's website and check that out before you go. Trevor, what else do you have for us to share today? Anything that you'd care to reveal to our viewers at all?
yeah. Well, I mean, talked about a few, like just Illinois being right around the corner. You know, looking to expand even beyond Illinois as we
Mhm.
can, as it grows, and as we have the means to do so. But then, yeah, there is a sixth beer I think that we're contemplating, but we're in an early stage of it that I really can't say what it is because even I don't really know what it is. So, speaking
Okay.
of praying about the beer, we need to say a little bit more. Say a few more prayers to really let that sink in and get the right inspiration for it. But that's kind of the only other thing that's on the horizon right now.
Well, I think I got a good name for it. You could name it the Saint Stephen. There you go. You get something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, good name.
Which Saint Stephen, though?
That's right. Exactly. Well, I just put up on the screen for our viewers, go to your X account, x.com/TridentineBrew, as well as your website, TridentineBrewing.com. Trevor, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for this great conversation, and all the best with your efforts.
Thank you, Stephen. It's been a pleasure being on and hope to talk with you soon.
And tell your dad thanks too. Seems he's putting a lot of the legwork, so I'm sure he definitely is underappreciated or at least underrecognized. But we'll say a quick a special prayer for him as well as you and your brothers. So thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again for Trevor for being here and everybody else for tuning in. God bless.